It's time to have your say. It's time for the Q&A, answering your questions in the wrestling community. Once again, it's time for another episode of Ask SCW here on YouTube. Welcome to Ask SCW once again. Thank you for choosing the channel and choosing the video. Please subscribe right now. Just before I start with our first question this week, if you want to be involved next time for Ask SCW, you can drop a question with the hashtag AskSCW in the comments below, or you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. All the details are on YouTube, and hopefully I remember to put it on your screen as well. But without further ado, let's get with our first question this week. And that comes from Austin Whitley asking, Daniel Bryan loses Friday and goes to NXT. What do you think? I absolutely love it. This was the question I was begging for this week, so I'm so pleased I've got this one. Of course, it's kicking off the show now. Daniel Bryan given the ultimatum last Friday on SmackDown. Roman Reigns giving him one more Universal Championship match. If Daniel Bryan loses, he must leave SmackDown. And of course, this throws a lot of questions of what could be next for Daniel Bryan. He could move to Raw. Like I say, he could move to NXT. There has been rumours going around as well that his contract is expiring soon. Maybe Daniel Bryan is leaving WWE. Maybe his full-time career is coming to a close and he's going to work more backstage with creative, maybe even sort of an agent sort of role. Who knows what Daniel Bryan has in store? He did say going into WrestleMania this year that this could be his last WrestleMania. So lots of questions have come into play here, and we're going to see what it's going to lead to. I know one thing, Daniel Bryan is not winning the Universal Championship, so let's talk about if he goes to NXT, because for me, this is what I want to see. Just think about the matches that Daniel Bryan can have. Johnny Gargano, Tommaso Ciampa, Adam Cole, Finn Balor, Karrion Kross. I mean, the list is endless of so many great competitors. Pete Dunne, Kushida, Roderick Strong, Kyle O'Reilly. I mean, goodness, who doesn't want to see Daniel Bryan having these matches in NXT? It would be absolutely phenomenal. And Daniel Bryan as well loves to do his long, lengthy matches. What do NXT takeovers do? There's 5 or 6 matches on the card. Every match gets time. Daniel Bryan would be fantastic for that, and also he would probably help with the ratings because Daniel Bryan is a draw. I mean, Daniel Bryan's a former multi-time world champion. I think he would benefit as well if he went on Tuesday nights. NXT from the ratings would benefit. I think that alone would get NXT so far from what, 840 the last couple of weeks on Tuesdays. I think you get to closer towards that 1 million mark if Daniel Bryan makes the move. Honestly, for me, this ticks all the boxes. It's something I really want to see. I think NXT just needs a big time player to go there, and Daniel Bryan, he's been on SmackDown the whole time of this brand split since 2016, whether it's GM, in-ring competitor, you name it, he has always been on SmackDown. It would be nice to see him freshen things up. The only downside to this for me is that we don't see a continuation of that rivalry with Edge. That's something I would have liked to have seen, but I mean, if that's not going to be the case, but we get this instead, I think I can forgive it. Neither of them won at WrestleMania. Roman Reigns was still the champion. He's moved on. If he defeats Daniel Bryan again, then Daniel Bryan is in the rear view mirror. There's no more Daniel Bryan on SmackDown. If I got a number one choice of what I wanted, it would be an answer to what your question was. Yes, I want to see Daniel Bryan in NXT. Jamie, the controversial one, homes of our next question now. Do you think Aleister Black is subtly calling out Daniel Bryan? Chapter 1 of the book he was reading was called The Dragon, and the nickname of Daniel Bryan is the American Dragon. Very good point and a great observation. I'm loving your work, Jamie, with this question. This is phenomenal stuff, and it really gives you an idea to think, well, what if we are going down this avenue? Was there going to be other superstars called out in future weeks? Is this way of Aleister Black finding his way back into the SmackDown roster? Because right now, Daniel Bryan is still a part of it. But going back to the last question, I think Daniel Bryan is leaving SmackDown. He loses next week, he's off of SmackDown. He's got to win that Universal Championship or he's gone. I suppose if there's a DQ finish and Daniel Bryan wins, what happens then? I'm not so sure. Does it lead to another triple threat at Backlash with Cesaro involved? Who knows? There's a lot of certainly question marks of Daniel Bryan's future on SmackDown. But if there's certainly a match I'd want to see on SmackDown before Daniel Bryan's to leave, I mean, Seth Rollins would be one of them. Edge, I've already mentioned, would be another, but Aleister Black, that would be an incredible match in itself. So that's something I definitely would like to see. So is it something that I think is happening? I'm not so sure, but am I more open to it after your question? Yes, I am. Is it a match that I'd like to see? Most definitely, but we'll have to wait and see what's going to happen. From what I can gather, just before we go to the next question, is that Aleister Black himself was saying that he was the dragon, and it was almost based off a story of his childhood growing up that he was going to become that person. But hey, like you say, the American Dragon connection is there with Daniel Bryan. Let's see how it plays out with more vignettes. I'm sure we're going to get over the next couple of weeks. I thoroughly enjoyed it, but I'm going to talk more about Aleister Black as we get later into the video. But it's a great observation from your question, and like I say, there's so many question marks with Daniel Bryan, but this could be another one. I'd want to see if it could happen. Wrestling Through Life for us next now. Scott Robertson in the house of two questions for us now. What is your personal favourite follow-up WrestleMania pay-per-view? And what Impact matches would you show someone to try and convince them to become a fan? Two fantastic questions there. Let's start off with after WrestleMania. I've always been a Backlash guy. I know last year Money in the Bank was following WrestleMania. We've had Payback in recent years as well. Extreme Rules, I'm sure, has been one of them. But for me, it always comes back to the Attitude Era. Unfortunately, that's what I grew up with. It's what I knew. It was always Backlash was the one that was the consistent. I used to love the staging as well. And it used to finish off any rivalries that did carry over from WrestleMania. And that should be the closing chapter if we get any. But I know a lot of people have said on other videos, and I do sort of agree, it's nice that WrestleMania is that closing chapter, but sometimes there is a rematch in there. There is something that people want to come back for more for, and I think Backlash is that perfect pay-per-view for it. So I think it's in the right place this year. It has been in different places in the calendar. Last year I think it was June. I think when it returned in 2016 it was in September. So for me, I like the placement of it this year. I think it's the perfect place straight after WrestleMania. To give you for Impact Wrestling, anything from 2018, that is a solid year from start to finish. Impact Wrestling was on fire that year. It was almost unmissable in my opinion. But to give you a show, if you want to say, right, I need something to go and watch Slammiversary 2018. It's a spectacular pay-per-view. One of the matches of the year with Pentagon Jr. against Sami Callihan is can't miss, which, believe it or not, is actually a mask versus hair match. The pay-per-view is actually headlined with Austin Aries taking on Moose for the Impact Championship. Elsewhere in the card, there is a fatal four-way with the likes of Rich Swann against Johnny Impact. We've got Ishimori as well, which is now in New Japan, and Phoenix also there together. We also have a tag team street fight for the championships, LAX against the OGs. So there is plenty of matches on this card. Tessa Blanchard featuring on there as well as the Knockouts Championship with Su Yung defending against Madison Rayne. There's a stacked card from top to bottom. It's one of my favourite pay-per-views from Impact Wrestling history. Highly recommend you go and check it out. But really, anything from Impact 2018 is solid. Even actually through 2019, there's some great stuff as well. So if you ever get hold of Impact Plus, those are the first 2 years in the Impact era that I'd recommend that you went and go and check out. Mark Q, World Order of our next question now. Following the This Is Rebellion special, I think it's looking like Impact Wrestling is about to get more involved in this AEW crossover. That being the case, do you still want an invasion type angle or more of a talent exchange here and there for a longer period of time? It's a great question, this one, and I think it's time that we start actually, getting more of an invasion angle here. I did a video this week based with Rich Swann and Kenny Omega and the problem with the match here at Rebellion. I think the match is going to be fantastic. I'm just going to throw that out there now. Probably by the time that people see this video, it may have already taken place and you have your winner. But I don't think AEW has made enough of this on their side. I don't think Impact has actually made enough of it on their side either. AEW's barely promoted it. Impact Wrestling haven't really gone through the ideas of what happens if someone from another company wins our championship, and AEW hasn't gone through the idea of what if Kenny Omega lost his championship. So let's take the result and put that to one side. What needs to happen next? Judging by the fallout of this, there needs to be reaction, and a way to react for this is invasion. They have to start going to the other show and start causing a war, because that's the only place this can go. You've lost your world champion. It's now someone from a different company representing yours. That has to be the case if Kenny Omega has won. If Rich Swann is the one that's winning, then AEW needs to invade that territory, because whoever wins this match, in my opinion, they have made their brand seem the more superior. And up to this point, I think AEW is the one that's getting the benefit of this crossover, this forbidden door opening. And although Impact is getting a talent exchange here and there, Private Party being there, Tony Khan doing advertisements, what's to say Impact can't do an advertisement on there, bashing their product or doing something back? Because we all know it's make-believe, right? Tony Khan isn't really investing money each and every week to promote AEW like that. Surely it can be done the other way as well. These companies need to work together to really benefit, to help both of them grow. If that's what they want, at the moment it's just Impact's meant to go, oh, we're getting Kenny Omega, where really what we should be getting is people from AEW that are interested in Kenny Omega. You should go and also check out Impact Wrestling, and as well as that, Impact, send over your knockouts, whoever you need to send over, and also at that same time say, look, Kenny Omega, he's with us, but he's also on AEW. Let's try and grow both brands together. That's what they need to do, but with the way that they've done this, now it's title versus title, it's got to be all out war. For me, talent exchange is a great way to do it through the pandemic era, but if you've gone this heavy, this soon, it's got to be full-on invasion, in my personal opinion. Wrestling with Waldridge with our next question now. Who do you think will be Kenny Omega, Rich Swann's opponent at Double or Nothing, and would it be for both titles? Well, I sort of touched on this last week of Kenny Omega, of who I think his opponent will be, and of course by this point you may already know the result of what happens at Rebellion, but I'm going on the idea that Kenny Omega wins because I just don't see it happening any other way. I think Kenny Omega will be the belt collector, will be Impact Champion, and I think he's taking on Hangman Page at the next pay-per-view, as Hangman is currently the #1 in the rankings area. I do think it was too soon to do that match again on pay-per-view, but it looks like that's going to be the direction. I don't think it's going to be for both championships. If you look, Kenny Omega is the AAA champion as well. We rarely see that on Impact TV. I believe they did a defense on that last year during the pandemic just to fill a bit of TV time, but unfortunately I don't think we're going to get where multiple championships are on the line here. I think Kenny will just be doing double, triple duty depending on where he is going and maybe where he is going next. But to give an answer, I believe it will be Hangman Page. I would like something involved still with this Forbidden Door. Maybe Rich Swann trying to win the championships back at the next pay-per-view would make sense. And I think as well, to have a real hypeness about it, I feel that those championships taking place in Daily's place would feel like a really big deal because there would be fans there as well. It just feels more special with that. Impact at the moment can't have their fan base there. It would be awesome because an Impact fan base is a hardcore, passionate fan base, and I like when we watch Impact with those fans in place. At the moment, without that, it does feel a bit more flat than what it did previously, and I think that's no knock on Impact. Unfortunately, that's just currently how it is right now. They're one of the companies that are suffering most without a fan base. But to close things off, I think it's Kenny Omega, I think it's against Hangman Page, and I think it is just for the AEW Championship. I don't see any other belt in place, sadly. Next question comes from Non-Stop Wrestling Chat. What wrestlers would you like to see jump to WWE from AEW and to AEW from WWE? Hard one, but I've been thinking this a lot. Omega versus Rollins would be amazing. You're damn right, that would be absolutely amazing. I would personally love to see that match. That would be one for me that I definitely would be down for. For me, Kenny Omega against AJ Styles would be awesome. So perhaps AJ to AEW would be pretty cool to see. Other superstars from WWE to AEW, that would be pretty special. I'd like to see Kevin Owens in that environment. I think that would be pretty cool to see because KO is Kevin Steen. I think he's such a great promo, such a great worker. To see him let loose against some of the talents over there in AEW would be pretty awesome. I mean, you see against the likes of, I don't know, Eddie Kingston, John Moxley, in that sort of, unleashed environment would be fun to watch. We've mentioned Daniel Bryan a lot in this video already. Could you imagine DB in AEW, the amount of great matches that Daniel Bryan could have a lot with the likes of the mid-card, the people like Jungle Boy, Darby Allin in there, all those sort of names would just be awesome to see. So I personally would love to see that. Also, just from looking from things from the other side, I mean, the women's division as well, there's some great matches I'd like to see. Maybe Hikaru Shida could come over to WWE, see against the likes of Asuka, Io Shirai, Sasha Banks, Bayley, Bianca Belair. Also many great matches that you could do there. You know, it would be pretty darn awesome to see. And some other ones that can come over to WWE. I mean, perhaps MJF being in WWE would be quite fun to see how he would get on with the mic against some of WWE's best on the stick. Other superstars that move over to WWE, of course, many would be like the Elite. You're probably looking like the Young Bucks in there. I would move over Hangman Adam Page as well, just to see how they get on with the likes of WWE superstars. And one more I'd move over to AEW would be Ricochet. Ricochet, poor guy, is wasted in WWE, just isn't getting that break that he deserves. To see him against the likes of the mid-card in AEW, I think would be absolutely electric. So yeah, there's a lot that you could throw from side to side. Wouldn't it be great if the Forbidden Door allowed a pay-per-view one day? That would just be awesome. But yeah, I think we're in dreamland at this particular time. Unfortunately, I don't think that's happening anytime soon. AK the Elite of our next question now. Is AEW Women's Division better than last year? 100%. It's not really just because of the talent themselves. Some of them have improved a lot over the last 12 months. I mean, you have to only look at this week. Ty Conti, since joining the company, has gone leaps and bounds above how she was this time last year. I mean, Ty Conti as a performer in general, I saw potential in her from the Mae Young Classic a few years ago. Been a big fan of her work. Was disappointed when she was released from WWE and NXT, but since she's gone to AEW, she's just got better and better and flourished. And she's not the only one. A lot of that division is improving, but more than anything, it's the fact that the women's division is getting a lot more time, is getting a lot more storylines. It's not just that the talent is improving, they're getting a lot more to do on TV. And more recently, I'm noticing that we're getting a couple of matches on quite a few weeks of AEW Dynamite, which is great to see. So yeah, the women's division is a lot stronger this year than it is last year. If it continues in the direction it's currently going, think how strong it'll be in the next year or two going forward. AEW is doing a lot of things, putting them all in the right motion, and yeah, I'm excited to see what's going to happen. I mean, one of my favourite matches from AEW this year has been that main event with Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker. I think there's going to be many more great women's matches on the way coming through the rest of 2021. Good Cop, Bad Cop, a wrestling podcast of our next question now. With Ronda Rousey being 4 months pregnant, but knowing she wants to return to WWE, what event year will she appear and who will be her first opponent? Great question, this one. Really great for this. And of course, congratulations to go out to Ronda Rousey. Of course, like you say, she's pregnant now. And yeah, it probably would be a while before she would actually come back into a WWE ring if that's something that she wants to do in the future. I would say it would at least be a couple of years. If she was to return, I mean, potentially a Royal Rumble win wouldn't really go amiss, but I don't think you really even need to do that with Ronda Rousey to put in a match at WrestleMania. WrestleMania is the clear destination. You'd have her first match back, and there's only one obvious opponent. There's many opponents that you'd like to see her against, the likes of Rhea Ripley, Bianca Belair, that have come onto the scene since Ronda Rousey was last there, but there's the one money match, the Battle of the Mums, Becky Lynch and Ronda Rousey. That is the WrestleMania dream match. That's the match I think that would make the most money. Wouldn't necessarily need the most build to put towards it either. I think that is money printed on paper for WWE. Arguably one of the rare dream matches that's still left in a one-on-one environment in the current climate. So for me to give an answer, I'd say it'd be at least a couple of years, and I would say that the opponent would be at WrestleMania, Becky Lynch. Bonafide heat of our next question now. Thoughts on Charlotte Flair Dave Meltzer controversy? I'm so pleased she called him out. Seriously, what is Dave doing saying things about Charlotte like that? I don't even know what was going through the guy's mind. Unfortunately, in my opinion, Dave Meltzer has far too much of an opinion, high opinion of himself. Smug, seems to think he knows it all. He doesn't get it right half of the time. And to think he can even make these sort of comments that he's made about Charlotte Flair and think he's not going to get anything sent back is just ludicrous. I'm glad that Charlotte Flair actually called him out, said what she thought about it, put him in his place as well. It's really good to see, and it feels like as well that a lot of people are on the side for it and power for that. Yeah, don't know what was going through Dave's mind, and yeah, hopefully he'll learn from this, but somehow just don't see it. Noob and Co of our next selection of questions now. What are your thoughts on Sarray's debut on NXT this week, and how would WWE write Asuka off TV? It will give 6 months for WWE to bring back live crowds, the Raw Women's Division to worry about Asuka, and enough time for the Charlotte-Rhea feud. Couple of great questions there. Let's start with Sarray showing NXT. Great performer. I was really impressed with what I saw. I mean, of course, she clearly can sell very well. She can deliver her moves very well. But what I would say is that Zoe Stark got a lot of offense in there. And what I would also say is that compared to other people that have been brought in, she was really, really hyped up. I was expected to be completely mind blown, and I don't think she's any better than what WWE has currently got from what I've seen. Now, perhaps it's very early to judge. It's one match, and of course, there's a great lineup of NXT talent that Sarray will be facing in the ring. You look at Toni Storm, Dakota Kai, Raquel Gonzalez, Io Shirai, Frankie Monet. So there's lots of people that she can go against, and I'm looking forward to seeing each and all of those matches. But if you look and compare to perhaps some of the other people brought in, for me, it's not as wow. Io Shirai is still the one that wowed me the most from the second I saw her in a ring. I was like, goodness, this is a completely different level. But with Kairi Sane, Asuka, Sarray, I mean, she's on a similar level for me, in my opinion, looking at that. But that can't be a bad thing. All of them are phenomenal talents. So I'm looking forward to seeing what she's going to bring to the table in NXT. As for writing Asuka off WWE TV, that's a great question. If WWE wants to go down that avenue, obviously just to freshen things up for Asuka, give her a break off of TV, bring her back in when things perhaps are more settled, like you say, crowds are back. You know, she's had a long time with the championship, and if she wants to come back in and feel meaningful, maybe go for some sort of redemption story to go back for the championship. Sometimes a break can be a good thing. Maybe a heel turn could be an idea as well. But what I would do, I love the good old classic whodunit angle, perhaps a beat up after backstage after losing a championship match or something like that would be quite nice to write her off TV, and then you can go through that process of who attacked Asuka, who was the person that put her out of action, take a bit of time to try and work out any opening weeks, and then revisit that storyline when she makes the return. And it can make a really, really fun storyline if they were to go down that. The only other way they could do it, I suppose, they could actually just literally beat her up so badly in the ring that she has to take time off, and we know who the culprit is straight away. But for me, I like the mystery in storylines. I don't like everything just being given to me face value. It was Charlotte Flair that took her out. Why can't it be a mystery that's done so, and then you can take that program and go back to it at a later date? It's worked very well in the past, and I think it could work very well in this circumstance if WWE was ever to do that with Asuka. Two more questions then from Noob. What are your thoughts on the new Aleister Black character? And bonus question, do you think that Sasha Banks and Bayley's storyline hurt Asuka and the whole Raw Women's division as a whole? Well, that's going back to last summer, and we did touch on this actually on the live Q&A this week. Yeah, I do think it did, let's be honest. Bayley and Sasha Banks, it was a storyline that was fun at the time, and I got a lot of hate for it on Twitter when I did call it out, because Charlotte was on every single show, and all of a sudden, then Charlotte took time off. Bayley and Sasha Banks were on every single show, and I don't think they needed to win the Raw Women's Championship, but it's a storyline that's been done before. Two superstars winning championships, then winning the tag titles, having all the gold, and of course in WWE terms now for the male superstars, that's very hard to do. On the women's division, I don't remember it being done before, and it was good to see that it's been done once. But it did come at the expense of Asuka, in my opinion. She was on a roll at that point, and she had a couple of bizarre losses. The way that she lost the championship was very poorly booked, in my opinion. She did win the belt back, but then the damage had been done. It felt like WWE just didn't have the plans. I suppose you can put the blame on Bayley and Sasha, but really it comes down to creative, because Bayley and Sasha just doing the job in the direction they were given, but WWE just didn't have the plans once Asuka won the belt back. But looking at Aleister Black, I love the look of that visionette that we had this week. Of course, we touched on it earlier in the video with the, potentially the dragon story, but just the camera work, the way that the music was done, the way that everything was presented, the eeriness about it, it was beautiful to watch, and it was something that was very captivating in the screen. Aleister Black looks like he's going to come back and have a purpose. Of course, there was an argument he could be back in his closet again. Let's hope someone hasn't got a knock on his door this time for about 9 months. But on a serious note, this is looking good. It's looking exciting. What is going to be the next chapter into each story? Is it going to lead to where he gets back into the ring? Is it leading to a target, like James suggested earlier in the video? I'm all in. I'm excited to see where it's going to go. Do I have the answers at this point? No, I do not, but am I invested heavily? I mean, Aleister Black was being booked very poorly before he got taken off WWE TV. This is a very exciting, fresh, different theme that we have. There's no superstar like this in WWE, and Aleister Black is a unique individual who stands out, who's different. There's no one like him. He's individual. Let's give him this gimmick, see where it can go with, and I really think Aleister Black, if booked right, could be a megastar in WWE, and I like the idea that they've gone with the heel avenue with him because it's fresh, it's different, and I think his character really suits it. So yeah, I'm really in for this. Let's see where it goes. Lorenzo Carrillo with the next two questions now. What could be next for The Fiend? It looks like he doesn't have any direction right now. And do you see Big E and Apollo ending their feud next week? If so, where do you see Big E heading towards after that? Well, Randy Orton did say this week that The Fiend is gone. He's not going to be on TV anymore. Alexa Bliss seems that she's moved on as well. It felt that The Fiend, or Bray Wyatt if you want, wasn't even that bothered in the funhouse that Alexa turned on him. So I'm not sure what the actual direction is going to be for The Fiend. It appears, if Randy's saying he's not going to be around while Randy is there, it feels like that The Fiend is going to take a break off TV again, find a place to bring him back in. So I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see The Fiend for another few weeks again. And it's very strange because he's just come back. So I'm a bit confused with this. I don't know what they're going to do with The Fiend. I suppose it's another case of freshening things up to bring him back in to then find what storyline direction they want to go. But yeah, I can't really give you a great answer for this, but if they're going to give him a bit of time off, maybe rather than just having him go in and going back after Randy Orton, maybe they freshen it up, maybe they bring him back as a heel. Maybe him and Drew McIntyre would be a great direction they could go. I think I'd be definitely more invested in that as a storyline than seeing The Fiend go for the WWE Championship or, you know, to go for Randy Orton. So for me, that definitely would be the avenue I would go down. As for Big E and Apollo Crews, I do think it will be. I think they're going to do this now rather than the pay-per-view. I think Apollo is going to retain, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens here with Big E. Remember, of course, Commander Aziz will probably be the reason that you know, we see Apollo retain. Maybe that could lead them to go into a feud going forward. It's interesting to know, but Money in the Bank is not far away, so I'd say that if Big E loses this match, he can regroup, and he's got a ladder match he can focus on come next month. Mike, a Tanhabs Mike with the next two questions now. We saw a tease of Ted DiBiase perhaps showing up on NXT. How would you book the Cameron Grimes and Ted DiBiase storyline till DiBiase shows up? Interesting question, that one. And would the open challenge for NXT's Cruiserweight Championship weekly help elevate the title? Let's talk about that one first, shall we? I think yes. Kushida is a great athlete, and of course the Open Challenge is a great way of exposing that Cruiserweight division because Santos Escobar has kind of led that division for so long, but I think this could be a great way to get 205 Live guys on NXT, really showcase that talent, perhaps in a losing effort to Kushida, but maybe give people a reason to say, I need to tune into 205 Live again. There was a point that was unmissable, perhaps 3 or 4 years ago. I don't feel that's the case anymore. I think it's one on the WWE calendar that you can turn around and say, I don't really need to see that this week. So for me, I think that's probably the best way that they could go down because there's a lot of young, fresh, hungry talent on 205 Live. So I think that would be a great platform, and perhaps maybe the person that defeats Kushida could really be made into a star as well. So I do like the idea of the way this has gone down. Plus, there is always the opportunity that people can come in for one night only. I've seen that Ricochet has seen an interest in the idea of the Open Challenge, and I would be very much keen on seeing that matchup. As for your other question, it's hard to say really, but Cameron Grimes, for me, I think he's already tried doing a couple of things that Ted DiBiase has done previously, of course, with the bouncing of the ball. I would try and do things like that, try and mimic what the $1 Million Man did back in the day and completely fail each and every time, whether he's trying to, I don't know, perhaps even buy the NXT Championship, maybe something stupid like that, and then that can actually, you know, find that Ted DiBiase is not, it's not working the same way as it did for Ted back in the 80s or the 90s, and he can just find a way to find himself cursing about Ted DiBiase each and every week, to the point eventually he maybe calls him out a couple of times and Ted actually turns up on NXT TV. It's got to go down the comedy route. I don't see how else it can go down. I'm intrigued though to see what the finishing line is of that storyline more, because for me Ted DiBiase can't really do much. I think when they do this, it's going to be kind of like an instant payoff. I can't see how Ted DiBiase is going to pay someone to go and do his dirty work either, because that's more of a heel move also than a babyface move. So it has potential where this could be some flaws in the storyline. But one thing I would like to see, just as a finish off, wouldn't it be great if Ted DiBiase Jr. returned for another little stint in NXT, just maybe even for a match? That'd be quite fun, him and Cameron Grimes. Maybe that'd be a good thing to see. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Tweeter with the next question for us next now. Who would you have defeat Roman Reigns? Someone young, fresh and hungry. Someone to really get the rub. Roman Reigns has established himself as the guy. It's time for him now to do that for somebody else. And the thing is with Roman, I think he holds this championship for a long time. I don't think he's given up before SummerSlam, in my personal opinion. I'd be very shocked if he lost it to Daniel Bryan next week, and I think that's the wrong type of opponent. I thought Edge was going to win it at WrestleMania. That didn't work out, and I think when you look at it in hindsight, it was definitely the right thing. Roman needs to keep this belt. He is now the now guy, and I think when you look at SmackDown, you've got those people that could be the next guy. The Cesaro storyline is playing out very nicely. Cesaro could be that guy eventually. It's certainly, if booked correctly, over a case of perhaps months rather than weeks. That could be a beautiful storyline, can get a fantastic payoff. Jey Uso, if they wanted to revisit that storyline, would be quite cool as well. And I mentioned one name not so long ago in this, Big E, and I think Big E is the one that would look really good for this, because I think they want to make Big E the guy. They had him as the IC champion. I think since then it's the transition of going from the mid-card to the main event, and now he's lost that championship. They need him to lose the rematch in some sort of screwy finish way. Then they can try and start pushing Big E as the monster, as the guy that he should be, going towards the top and towards that main event. The only alternative name I'll give you now is Kevin Owens, and my reasoning for that is if he wins the Money in the Bank, that would be my case for that. But in the meantime, let's see how WWE books that match this year before giving a full prediction. To give an answer fully, I want to see a young up-and-comer get that rub, defeating Roman Reigns. So my answer for you is Big E or Cesaro. Speaking of Kevin Owens, and the last question moves us on very nicely to DWE. What direction do you think is best for Sami Zayn now after the feud is done with KO? Well, here's the thing after SmackDown, I don't think it is done. I mean, KO lost the match against Apollo Crews, and we got to see Sami Zayn's dance moves once again, dancing around Kevin Owens. I don't think we're finished with that one just yet. I think that one is heading for WrestleMania Backlash. It really feels with these two, they are going to fight forever. But if you ask my opinion, what goes on after this, it's the same as what I said in the last question with Big E, or a couple of questions ago. I think the Money in the Bank is coming up. I think that would be Sami Zayn's direction, because for him, that's an idea of redemption, of getting these conspiracies against him. If he can get the Money in the Bank briefcase, or whatever conspiracy is done from him from WWE, he has a championship match when he wants. It feels like it would suit him to be in this environment, to be a guy that'd be worthy holding that briefcase. But do I think that will happen? I don't think Sami will win it, but certainly the storytelling leading into it, I think would be phenomenal. So that certainly would be a direction I would go for Sami after the feud finishes with KO. But with them two, I don't think it's over just yet. TNT of the last couple of questions then for the video this week. Do you think AEW should consider bringing in the AEW Trios Championship, as there are a lot of faction wars going on within the company? Death Triangle as their first champions would be amazing to see. I agree with Death Triangle would be a fantastic choice for your first Trios champions, and yes, there's a lot of factions in AEW. I think Trios championships would be good to see. It is different to what a lot of, to WWE certainly anyway, it would make them stand out having those Trios championships. My only thing I'd say about it is, of course, we do have Dark and Elevation, but I would wait until that Saturday show comes in, which has been heavily rumoured for a long time, because that one's going to be on national television. With that and Dynamite, they're going to be your two main shows. I think you'll have room then to have another championship in play in AEW, because arguably there is too many championships right now. So if they're going to bring another one in, it needs to be unique. The Trios one certainly does work, especially with the factions. I think Death Triangle is a fantastic choice. I would have gone with Team Taz as well, but I think by the time they do come into play, I think Team Taz will either have a reshuffle, or I do think that that group will be broken up. So Death Triangle, I think, is a superb choice. But asking my opinion, I think yes, they should do it, but I think it should be later in the year, perhaps even towards the end of 2021. Last question then, coming from TNT this week. Would a secondary AEW title be ideal for maybe their Dark Elevation shows, and maybe consider bringing in a Gift of the Gods type-like title like Lucha Underground did when they was around, with a title holder challenging for the TNT Championship whenever he feels fit to do so? I loved Gift of the Gods. I thought that was a fantastic creation in Lucha Underground, and it was very special. And Lucha Underground, it's sad to see that it's not here today, because they had some very unique storylines. Like I said, with that championship, was different to anything else. The only thing I would say is that Dark and Elevation, I don't think needs this, and I think that when it comes to singles championships, I think AEW have their own decent methods of building number one contenders, whether it's tournaments, battle royals, ranking systems. I don't think that a Gift of the Gods else is necessary at this stage. But I do like potentially how it could be an idea for a very young up-and-comer, perhaps someone that's not in the ranking system, someone that we've not heard of. But again, as I said, there's a lot of championships in play in AEW, some that aren't even really active. You look at the FTW Championship, for example, it doesn't really have any purpose or meaning. It's a prop, isn't it? So I'd hate another singles championship to come in and be a prop. I think compared to the trios championships, I don't think that would feel like a prop. It would stand out and be different. This as another singles championship, I think arguably could slightly be lost in the shuffle, in my personal opinion, especially as the viewership for Elevation and Dark is a lot lower than what they get for Dynamite each and every week. But that's all from me anyway. Thank you for watching as always. Thank you. It's always great to have your questions in, and please go and support everybody here in the wrestling community that got involved with this video. Some fantastic people there. Some of them content creators as well, so make sure to go and check them out also. But that's all from me anyway. Thank you. It's been AskSCW, answering your questions in the wrestling community. Remember, you can be involved for the next episode, then just drop a question in the comments below with the hashtag AskSCW, or you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook. More videos will be dropping through the week, and hoping as well to drop something Rebellion related with the review for that show as well. Will probably be a shorter review, and I also will look to try and go live once again if I can do at some point during this week. But that's all from me anyway. Thank you for watching, and just say as well, keep an eye out on the community tabs as well. I'm trying to drop content on there every single day, something that you can interact with. Maybe it's a question, maybe it's a poll, something that I'd like to know your viewpoint on. So make sure to keep an eye out for those as well. Make sure to like them and give them an answer as well. Let's see if we can get that off the ground now that they are available for the SCW YouTube channel. But that's all from me. Thank you for watching. Take care. Have yourselves a good one. You've been watching SCW here on YouTube.